Now, when you think about 11-year-old boys, you probably don't think about them being murderers or gangbangers, but unfortunately, that is exactly what Robert Sandifer, aka Yummy, was, and that's the legacy that he left behind. Born on March 12, 1983, Robert, nicknamed Yummy, who stood at just 4 feet 6 inches and weighed less than 100 pounds, was a member of the Black Disciple Chicago street gang. His criminal activities began in 1992 when he was just 8 years old, and he was well known to police. He had been arrested for crimes such as robbery, shoplifting, residential burglary, and auto theft, just to name a few of them. And even though Robert's grandmother tried her best to steer him from a life of crime, Robert was too far gone, and there was nothing anybody could do to stop him. By the time Robert's mother, Lorinda, had him, she was 18 with 2 other kids aged 3 and 5. At just 22 months old, Robert was placed in the hospital, and authorities found cigarette burns and other bruises and scars consistent with him being beaten by electrical cords. Now, it was said that Robert's father, who was in and out of jail, was responsible, but no one really knows. His mother was a prostitute in and out of jail her own self. So Child Protective Services removed Robert and his siblings from the home and placed them with the grandmother. However, the caseworker discovered that the grandmother's home wasn't a much better environment. She had at least 19 other grandkids as well as her own kids all living there as well, and they all were involved in some type of criminal activity or another. So the caseworker actually suggested that Robert be taken from her too. But with a, lack of places to send him and no other real resources, he remained in the home with the grandmother. And because his grandmother couldn't keep an eye on him with that many people in the home, Robert took to the streets, and that's where he got into gang activity. Despite being charged with 23 felonies, convicted of 8 of them, and charged with 2 of them, Robert still was not placed into the Illinois prison system because state law did not believe in sentencing children under the age of 13 to prison. The state could really only give Robert probation, and he often broke that. And that's what led to him committing even more crimes, including the worst one, which was the murder of Siobhan Dean. Now, she was a preteen who was getting ready to start her freshman year of high school. She was super excited, but her life was tragically cut short when Yummy just began shooting into a crowd of kids that were playing for the street. And unfortunately, Siobhan was struck in the head with one of the stray bullets. So after the shooting, Yummy just ran, not even realizing that he had taken the life of this young girl. So he went into hiding because, of course, he knew that the police were looking for him. Yummy was out on the streets by himself at that point, but he couldn't go back to his grandma's house because, of course, that's where the police are going to look. So he just kind of wandered around, and he found himself on the porch of this young girl who stayed nearby. And she and her mom convinced Yummy that if they would call, his grandmother for him, that he should turn himself in. And it looked like Yummy was prepared to do that, but the elder gang members were not going for that. They ordered a hit on Yummy because they were afraid that if he were to be found and arrested by the police, that he was going to snitch and that he was going to tell the police all about their criminal activities, and there was no way that they were about to go down. So it didn't matter that he was 11 years old. He had to go. Unfortunately for Yummy, 2 of his fellow gang members, Derek and Craig Hardaway, brothers that were age 16 and 14, found him before the police could find him. Now, they told Yummy that they were going to take him to a safe location, get him out of town. But that's not where they took him. They had been given direct orders to get rid of Yummy, and that's exactly what they did. They took him into this little tunnel area and executed him, basically, with a shot to the back of the head. The same gang that he was willing to kill for killed him. But while Yummy's grandmother was devastated when she learned about his death, and she blamed herself because she felt like it was her fault that, she couldn't keep him out of the streets, his mother's reaction was just crazy. She talked about him like he was just some random kid down the street.
As far as, being my son, the time that I got to know him, he was nice to me. like all kinds of statements. Your grandmother referred to statements about this and that, bad things, you know. What do you have to say?
Well, I'm not going to get myself upset about what the people think about me, you know, because I still got the let live and let live. Who, you know, want to believe whatever they want to believe about Sandifer. I can't change the world opinions or whatever, because I know what I am, and what I am is what I am, and what I never be, I will never be.
Okay, girl. Anyway, the case gained national attention because Yummy at such a young age was both a murderer who was murdered. And Tupac, who was known to speak his mind, especially about injustices, you know, involving African American youth, did not hold back in this interview when he spoke about Yummy and the Black Disciples gang.
Yeah, I had to run in with them in Milwaukee because that was when that little kid died, Yummy Sandifer. Yeah, I heard you sent a shout out to him. Yeah, I did a show that next day after they just killed that kid. Yeah. Because you heard what happened, right? Yeah, they executed him. Right, they executed him, and I was out there when I did the show. The gang was, the whole gang had like bought out the stadium. Damn. So I'm right, killed this little kid. And they all screaming out thug life, and I felt bad. Like, wait a minute, they got it twisted. Yeah. So I started, punks, man, I hate all you. I heard all you. Start throwing shit. We heard out in the stadium. Damn. It was tough, man. The whole gang tore up the whole neighborhood.
So over 400 people were present at Yummy's funeral, but none of those people could help him while he was alive. So many people came to see him leave this earth, but while he was here, nobody could help this child. He never stood a chance. Both Hardaway brothers were found guilty of Yummy's death and were sentenced to prison. Derek received 45 years and Craig received 60. However, Derek was released from prison in 2016 and Craig was released in 2020.